It's Wednesday, June 10. This is the news on PBCJ. I'm Carol Francis. As of Wednesday morning, the country has recorded another 6 confirmed COVID-19 cases, pushing the total number of confirmed cases to 605. However, only 200 of that number remain active. The 6 new cases are all imported, 3 who came on a flight from the United States, 1 on a flight from the United Kingdom, and 2 from a cruise ship that arrived in Falmouth recently. 2 of the persons who tested positive are from St. Elizabeth. The others reside in Manchester, St. James, Portland, and St. Catherine. The number of persons who have recovered from the virus still stands at 405. Traveling funds for government workers is being cut as the government seeks to curb spending due to the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic on the public purse. Financial Secretary Darlene Morrison told Parliament's Public Administration and Appropriations Committee PAAC that it's among several cuts being made across central government.
Focus areas where spending was reduced across all MDAs include traveling, which includes foreign and domestic travel, as local and foreign subsistence, hotel accommodation, mileage. The mileage that's included excludes the JDF, police, and RADA, the traveling actually. It includes overtime, the filling of vacant positions, and payment in lieu of leave, training, workshops, conferences, food and drink, advertising, and public relations. So that is across the central government. We have sought to significantly reduce these areas in an effort to identify where we could reduce.
Ms. Morrison highlighted cuts in other areas.
Obligations deferred to 2021-22 include the grant to Students' Loan Bureau from the Education Tax, $2.978 billion. The NHT employers' contribution arrears, which was just a balance of $0.378 that was during this fiscal year, and preparatory works for the census, the 2021 census, $927 million.
In total, the government is cutting $50.3 billion in spending from the national budget it passed in March. The Financial Secretary says the money is being reallocated to the COVID-19 response. The country could save some $750 million if local government and general elections were conducted simultaneously. That's according to Director of Elections Gaspol Brown. Mr. Brown was responding to a question from East Kingston MP Philip Powell during the sitting of Parliament's Public Administration and Appropriations Committee.
What was approved in the budget is roughly $2.4 billion for both elections. Our preliminary estimate is that if we are able to combine both elections, you'd be looking at a savings close to $750 million.
Close to $750 million.
Yeah.
Would you be able to conduct both elections in one day efficiently?
As I've said in the past, we have the capability to do so. What is important to us is that we are given the required notice period, because there are a number of things that we need to do. What is critical in terms of the period between nomination and the day of election. There are certain activities that we now carry out in terms of the row for 16 to 23 days. If we are asked to do both elections, we're going to require an additional time.
Additional how many?
Roughly 32 days.
Well,
General elections are constitutionally due by February next year. There is speculation that the country could go to the polls this year. The last local government elections were held in November 2016 and are next due between November 2020 and February 2021. On Tuesday, Health and Wellness Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton visited the Norman Manley International Airport to observe the controlled re-entry process. Simone Absalom tells us more.
Several Jamaicans made their way home from Fort Lauderdale on Tuesday. Once the airplane landed, those on board were screened by Ministry of Health and Wellness officials, after which they were tested for COVID-19. Passengers are expected to receive their results within 24 hours.
Now that we are at implementation stage, to see the different stages to speak with the public health officials. Almost 60 of them are here doing the processing, the collection of samples, to look at the coordination between the agencies. As you know, Ministry of National Security is here, Immigration, Customs, and there is a lot involved in the process. This is a relatively small flight, just under 100 persons came in today on JetBlue, and the process seems to have gone very well.
Other safety measures include the mandatory wearing of masks, the observance of physical distancing, the installation of plexiglass screens at the ticketing counters, the implementation of measures to minimize congestions, and the putting in place of a number of personnel to ensure travelers adhere to the guidelines.
It's not much different from if you were to come in under normal circumstances. Of course, it's a much smaller number of people, so the issue becomes if you have to scale it up, what it will mean in terms of the numbers and the processing and the efficiency. But I am satisfied today that the team has done well. I'm satisfied that the process works, but again, we'll have to reevaluate once you start to scale, because it would mean a lot more people and a lot more processing.
The health minister says his team is working to facilitate the safety of each and every Jamaican citizen and will continue to improve its procedures as required.
What we're going to have to do is approach this arrangement, as the Prime Minister said, in a way that requires review, ongoing review. So to the extent that it works, we do it. To the extent that we have issues, we adjust. And what I'd like the country to do is to appreciate the newness of the approach because of the novel virus and the fact that there is no set way that can achieve the objective. It really becomes an issue of risk assessment and then decisions that flow from the risk assessment.
Sensitization sessions for the COVID-19 health and safety protocols for the reopening of the tourism sector have begun. Executive Director of the Tourism Product Development Company's TPDCO, Dr. Andrew Spencer, says 66 participants were registered in sessions which started on Monday. The COVID-19 protocol sensitization sessions will be held both virtually via Microsoft Teams and face-to-face at the Montego Bay Convention Center, beginning at 9 in the morning and ending at 3 in the afternoon. Sessions being held at the Ocho Rios Cruise Pier are slated to start at 10 in the morning. These sessions will run until June 15. As of Monday, June 8, National Insurance Scheme NIS pensioners can encash their pension vouchers with payable dates in June. The early encashment will only be available at post offices. The National Commercial Bank NCB will only cash pension vouchers on or after the date payable. The early encashment of vouchers initiative is part of the effort to ensure that pensioners have access to their benefits during the COVID-19 crisis. Pensioners are encouraged to sign up with the NIS direct deposit system. This allows for NIS pensions to be deposited directly to their bank accounts. The direct deposit information form is available at the ministry's parish offices. The form may also be downloaded from the ministry's website. Cabinet has approved an official period of mourning beginning today, Wednesday, June 10, to Tuesday, June 16, and an official funeral for the late Minister of Labour and Social Security, Shahini Robinson. Minister Robinson died on May 29. She was 66 years old. Several tribute activities are scheduled to take place during the official period of mourning. There will be 3 days of public viewing, which will be closed casket on Thursday, June 11, between 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the St. Anne Parish Church in St. Anne's Bay. Friday, June 12, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the St. John's Anglican Church Hall in Ocho Rios, St. Anne, and Tuesday, June 16, at the Jamaica Labour Party's headquarters at Belmont Road from 10 in the morning to 3 in the afternoon. Condolence books will also be opened at the Parliament for members of the House of Representatives and the Senate. The Office of the Prime Minister for Cabinet members and public officials, and Ministry of Labour and Social Security for ministry staff and the general public. Members of Parliament attended a special sitting of the House of Representatives on Wednesday afternoon, where they paid tribute to the late Cabinet Minister. The lineup for this year's festival song competition is a star-studded one, with Grammy-winning reggae artists Buju Banton, Freddie McGregor, Sugar, and Toots and the Maytals among the 10 finalists. The event is slated for July. Minister of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sports Olivia Grange says there will be several changes in how the program is executed. Television and social media platforms will be the engines that will drive the Jamaica Festival Song Competition this year as the COVID-19 restrictions continue to challenge the entertainment industry. Time now for the business report with Gabriel Thompson.
In Tuesday's trading session, the JSE combined index declined by 301 points to close at under 400,000 units. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 72 stocks, of which 31 advanced, 31 declined, and 10 traded firm. The junior market index advanced by 15 points to close at under 3,000 units. Stocks advanced for Cargo Handlers Limited, Caribbean Assurance Brokers Limited, and Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances Limited. Stocks declined for Access Financial Services, Burrito Investments Limited, and Caribbean Cement Company. Trading firm were Caribbean Cream Limited, Siboney Group, and First Rock Capital Holdings. Trans-Jamaican Highway Limited was the volume leader with 2.4 million units, followed by Wigton Wind Farm Limited ordinary shares with over 2 million units and Jetcon Corporation Limited with over 1.8 million units. Now for the foreign exchange, the US dollar on Tuesday, June 9, ended trading at $141.47. The Canadian dollar sold for an average $106.41. The pound sterling traded for $178.69, and the euro ended trading at $161.03. Oil fell more than 1% towards $40 a barrel on Wednesday after a report showed a rise in crude inventories in the United States, reviving concerns about oversupply and weak demand due to the coronavirus crisis. Brent crude futures fell 70 cents to settle at $40.48 a barrel. West Texas Intermediate crude futures dropped 98 cents to $37.96 a barrel. And that's it for the business report on PBCJ. I'm Gabrielle Thompson.
A blood bank is a place where blood is collected from donors, typed, separated into components, stored and prepared for transfusion to accident victims, people undergoing surgery and other patients in need of blood. Jamaica's National Blood Transfusion Service, or Blood Bank, is located at 21 Slight Pen Road in Kingston. This week in our Living Healthy report, Simone Absalom pays a visit to the blood bank.
The Jamaica National Blood Transfusion Service, or Blood Bank, is a place where blood is collected and stored before it is used for transfusions. The blood is usually collected through voluntary donations. According to the director of the blood bank, Dr. Alicia Tucker, a target for blood products is usually set based on the country's needs. That number has been difficult to reach.
Despite targets that we set, we're unable to fully achieve them because of the number of donors, and particularly as when someone comes to donate, it is mostly because a friend or a loved one actually needs the blood and not really derived from that altruistic view of donating for the greater good.
Dr. Tucker says that shortage has gotten worse since the outbreak of the novel coronavirus.
It has had to be intensified because from the time of the first COVID-19 positive patient, we had noted that the donor pool had severely contracted by 75 to 80%. With schools closing, we were no longer going to have our mobile drives, which bring in our voluntary donors, and a lot of people had actually cancelled the mobile drives due to the restrictions on public gatherings. So we relied heavily then on people that would come out. Now, with the stay-at-home regulations and restrictions and quarantine of some areas, the blood bank did see a drastic decrease. And so it then led us to then try and find more innovative ways to bring donors to the blood bank.
Her colleague, Dr. Daniel Levy, says it was like a national emergency.
And that is when we decided, let's try with the social media push. And that is when we started the Twitter page. It was started in March 2020, and we revived the Instagram page. And through those pages, we've been able to educate persons. We realize that there are a lot of questions that people have, and they just have not been able to have answered. A lot of persons who want to give blood but haven't been able to because they just don't know what the process is like. And we've been able to reach a wider audience through that media.
One way of informing and convincing persons about donating blood for the greater good is through partnership.
This is the first collaborative effort that we had. Chilitos, which is a Jamaican Mexican restaurant, reached out to us and said, hey, we know you guys are having a problem, we want to help.
One of our directors is a regular blood donor. She just started after we had a crisis last year with someone that was very close to us. And at the blood bank, she was there about a month ago, and she got to learn about the extreme deficit. The blood bank is always in a deficit, but in COVID, it's extremely worse. It's exacerbated by the fact that no one is going out anymore. So there's now an extreme shortage of blood. So it was from there that we decided that our way of giving back is going to be to encourage and do a whole platform on blood donations. So right now, it was supposed to be temporary, but we've changed it to permanent because why not? We were offering 30% discount on anything on the Chilitos menu if you can prove that you've recently donated blood. That just means carrying your donor card or a video or a picture of you doing it. You come in, you get your 30% off, and know that you've done an excellent job for the health infrastructure of the country. You've saved 3 lives, really.
With the collaborative efforts through Citizens Response Jamaica, which I'm also a part of, and ePost Caribbean, and our long-standing partner, Chrysalis Communications, we've been able to offer appointments and pre-registration online for all collection centers island-wide. And this is major because persons want to have the comfort of knowing that if they're coming out of their house, they're coming out for a reason. And if they're coming out of their house, there's no long wait. And if they're coming out of their house, they're going to do something good. And we appreciate all of that collaboration that we've gotten since this COVID-19 pandemic.
Blood transfusions are given to patients for many reasons, including serious injuries such as those sustained in car crashes. Transfusions are given for surgeries, childbirth, anemia, blood disorders, cancer treatments, and many others. Are you ready to save 1 or 3 lives? Gabriel took the journey and became a hero.
When you decide to donate, you would enter the blood collection facility, and we'll start with the registration process. And that's where we ask you your name, your age, your address, and you present an ID. From there, you go on to the hemoglobin determination and blood group determination, because the donor will have to have adequate hemoglobin levels in order to donate. From there, you get a mini physical where we ask you specific questions, determine your blood pressure levels, and we have added now thermal screening for the donors in light of COVID, and we ensure that the donor is of adequate weight, so they're supposed to be over 110 pounds or 50 kg, and they would have eaten within 3 hours, and they don't have any illnesses which would actually preclude them from donating. They go on to phlebotomy, which is where they actually have the blood taken, and then from there we actually have a period where they're refreshed and they're reviewed to ensure that they feel well before they leave.
That's it for this week's edition of PBCJ's Living Healthy. I'm Simone Absalom.
In regional news, over in Trinidad and Tobago, Armenia residents have received a new general hospital. Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley said the hospital was built at $200 million less than the original estimated cost. Crystal Wilson was at the commissioning of the facility and has more in this TTT News report.
150 rooms and a wide range of medical services, including gynecology, psychiatry, orthopedics, ENT, and surgery. This is what the residents of Arima and environs can now look forward to having easier access to. The hospital, which was constructed by China Railway Construction, was built at a cost of $1.6 billion. On hand to deliver the feature address and declare the facility open was Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley. He said the General Hospital was built during difficult economic times, but government worked closely with the contractor and managed to reduce the cost estimated by the previous administration.
In those dark days, took the opportunity to sit down with the contractor through UDICOT to negotiate line by line, item by item. And that's how we managed to reduce the cost by $200 million.
Prime Minister Rowley took time to acknowledge the contributions of the nation's health sector, heaping praises on them. He also highlighted this country's success at managing through the coronavirus pandemic to date. And to members of the public, the Prime Minister called for people to temper their criticisms of this country's health sector.
If our health system and our healthcare deliverers were what you think they were, a pandemic would have been devastating to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And the reason why it has not been so, and it is not so, is because the reality of what we have and who we are have come to our rescue.
Dr. Rowley said despite the economic challenges, government's intention was to ensure the people of Arima receive a new hospital. Meanwhile, Health Minister Terence Dial Singh said he's pleased with all that the people of Arima are now able to benefit from.
You will have state-of-the-art treatment in areas of cardiology, including the management of hypertension, nephrology, endocrinology, metabolic disease, including the treatment and management of diabetes.
Construction of the Arima General Hospital began in September 2016. Crystal Wilson, TTT News.
Bahamas Police Commissioner Paul Roll is outlining more changes as the Royal Bahamas Police Force undergoes a number of reforms. Cleopatra Murphy from ZNS News has the details.
Commissioner of Police Paul Roll announced that the flying squad of the Royal Bahamas Police Force has been removed from the purview of the Criminal Investigations Department and placed under the newly created Operations Department, a compendium of mobile patrol operations that will also include the Rapid Response Team.
This is intended to better coordinate response to criminal events or other emergencies. This enables us to conduct operations on a 24-hour basis in order to disrupt all of these criminal enterprises. And this way, at the same time, CID is able now to focus strictly on investigation and giving quality to their work.
Roll announced during a graduation exercise Thursday for officers who participated in tactical and defensive driving training courses that the shift is intended to promote more efficiency within the law enforcement agency. The Commissioner of Police says he continues to be concerned about the proliferation of illegal firearms, high incidence of gun-related crimes in the country, and the continued illicit drug trade that fuels crime.
To those in our communities who seek to engage in these types of nefarious behavior, I implore you to desist. Otherwise, I wish to put you on notice that we will take a zero-tolerance approach and we will seek you out relentlessly. When you hear the expression predator, you know that we are looking for you.
Roll says too many of the country's young men have fallen to violence, stressing that the police force's duty is to preserve law and order and prevent and detect crime. He implored the officers to live up to those responsibilities.
Do your utmost to retain public trust and must perform your duties in a manner which respects individual human rights and which reflects fairness, sensitivity, and compassion. Yet, you are expected to act in firm pursuit of all offenders of our laws to ensure a safe and just society.
The police force chief congratulated officers on their graduation and implored them to also show professionalism as they strive to create safer communities. He also advised officers to serve the public with fairness and make the most of their recent training.
I need you to always be mindful of your limitations in the use of force. We serve an ever aware and watching public that expect us to protect them and not to abuse our powers in dealing with them. Those of you on the defensive driving courses, we have trained you in the operations and the momentum of these new police interceptors. I implore you to always drive defensively. No emergency can be so great as to justify causing an accident.
A total of 72 police officers graduated from the tactical training and defensive driving courses held over several weeks. Cleopatra Murphy, ZNS Network News.
In sports, we are in the creases with cricket as concerns about their families are understood to be the primary reason behind Darren Bravo, Shimron Hetmeyer and Kemo Paul declining to be part of the West Indies test squad for the England tour. We have more in this report from Guyana Newsroom.
Both the prospect of leaving their families for 7 weeks and concerns about how quickly they would be able to see them on their return to the Caribbean at the end of July are understood to be the key factors in the players' decisions, with uncertainty around the quarantine requirements that may be imposed by their respective governments. On Wednesday, Cricket West Indies announced a 25-man squad, including 11 reserves for the 3-test series in England, which is scheduled to start in Southampton on July 8, subject to the UK government's approval. CWI said it fully accepts and respects the decision taken by Bravo, Hetmeyer and Paul to opt out of the tour and would certainly not hold it against them in future selections. Talking to ESPN Cricinfo, Johnny Grave, the Cricket West Indies chief executive, said that the board wanted players who were comfortable travelling without any nagging doubts, as otherwise it might impact their performances. Grave said he totally understood the doubts and fears expressed by the 3 players after speaking with Bravo last Friday and receiving emails from the other 2 players at the weekend. Grave said Paul, the 22-year-old all-rounder, wrote an email to CWI explaining how difficult a decision it was for him not to travel to England. According to Grave, Hetmeyer said he didn't feel comfortable from a safety point of view, leaving his home, leaving his family, and heading over to England. As for Bravo, Grave said he was concerned about the situation in the UK. All 3 players are centrally contracted all-format players. In May, Grave had pointed out that he understood why players who come from smaller Caribbean islands would be nervous about going to England, which was seen as one of the eyes of the storm, with the official death count due to the virus nearing 40,000. Subsequently, the players grew more confident once they heard of the robust and safe plan that the England and Wales Cricket Board had put in place to conduct the tour within a biosecure environment behind closed doors. On June 1, both the ECB and CWI medical experts had another call before the tour schedule was made public. On the same day, CWI had a call with the wider pool of players from which the final squad would be picked to update them on the final arrangements. CWI is now waiting for the test results for the squad to come back from Miami, which are expected within the next 48 hours. Anyone who tests positive for the virus will almost certainly not take the charter flight that is set to leave on June 8 from Antigua.
The International Cricket Council, ICC, will allow substitutes only in Test cricket if a player shows symptoms of COVID-19. The ICC has also introduced a system of issuing 2 warnings per innings, following a 5-run penalty for repeated use of saliva on the ball. Those decisions were approved by the ICC's Chief Executive Committee based on the recommendations made recently by the ICC Cricket Committee. They also approved the use of non-neutral umpires for all international formats and added the use of an unsuccessful review for each team in each innings of a match. All these are interim adjustments to the playing conditions owing to the COVID-19 pandemic. And that's our package. Join us again tomorrow, same time, same place, for more news and sports right here on PBCJ, the People's Station.